So what we do with our debt management approaches is to look for ways sometimes to, like last year, we borrowed low-cost money. We retired some of the high-cost debt to unlock resources. And the question was asked, when will we spend more on growth and less on debt repayment? We're actually, that number which I said was 80% on debt service and wages for 2012. That number is now down to a little bit more than 55%. So it's coming down, and we need to build up our discussions which we are having with the International Monetary Fund and others about adjusting the primary surplus target is about just that, allowing for more resources to be spent on the capital side of our budget to generate growth, but recognizing ultimately that we have to, the debt represents money that was received by Jamaica and which needs to be repaid. Trade facilitation was a question asked, and certainly the measures that you see in all the international rankings about Jamaica's improvement on the ranking for doing business includes the fact of trade facilitation. Companies and others operating have the benefit of copyright protection. We have a copyright agency here that can do much of these things. The question of crime is a serious question and needs to be and is being addressed by the security forces and other areas. But there's a wider question which I think we have to accept. The quality of, and maybe it has to be resolved in the educational system, in the enforcement system, and in our communities, including churches. Much of the difficulties has in the banks speak about the levels of fraud among employees, financial institutions, businesses, the level of the erosion of values, of civic values that make for efficient, not only enterprise, but just for good society. We need to address those issues much more in our country. If you can't have a situation where you have to have both a watchman, someone to watch the watchman, someone to watch the man watching the watchman, and it all adds up to costs which make you inefficient. And in countries where people are more inclined to be honest, to recognize what is theirs and what is not theirs, they don't have those costs, and they will keep selling, underselling you in the world market everywhere. So we collectively have to address those issues.
You wanted me to take the animation one?
Go ahead.
In terms of animation, there are several programs that the government now offers, not only through the Ministry of Science, Technology, Energy and Mining, in terms of animation hackathons for persons to be, and those funds are granted by the IDB. We also have training through the CPTC, which is an agency under my ministry. But just to say to you that yes, there is a push for training in animation, and I know that the NYS as well has looked at that area and is looking at that area. So the person, the young lady from Campion College who wants to market her skills, please see us after. And we can send her to, no, she don't want to go carry Mac just yet. Come to us and we will, the Ministry of Youth and Culture, and will point you in the right direction, and we'll take your name, etc., to point you in that direction. All right?
But just as an aside, the only graduation class I've ever spoken to where everyone at the class, at the graduation, had a job going to on the Monday morning after the Saturday of the graduation was in the animation sector. And the Ministry of STEM is also the critical one there. The question was asked about the protection of brand Jamaica. Anybody making a product will have a responsibility, as does the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce, through the World Copyright Arrangements, have a responsibility to protect the Jamaica brand, whether it is our coffee or our jerk or others. But of course, you know, it's a world out there. People talk about on the coffee, they will say, or on the jerk season, they say Jamaica style. You have to register in these markets and you have to be willing to undertake legal action, both as private entities producing whatever it is you may be producing, and as a country, we undertake those efforts as well. Yeah, the other questions.
All right, let's just take these other questions and then we'll answer them in a final round so that you can get some refreshment, etc.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Michelle Black. I'm the team leader for the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor based at University of Technology, UTech. Yeah, big up UTech.
One question.
I only have one question, and this is regarding what I really wanted to find out is the level of support that you provide for young people within the disabled community. And I'd love to see us having more loans for disabled young people and loans for them to actually start up a business. I'd like to see more business hatcheries, more incubators, and more accelerators that are geared at disabled young people, because we don't have enough of these facilities available for them, and we know, particularly for women, and this is something that I'm going to be working on next year, so I'd love the opportunity to talk to you one-on-one after. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Step up in the line now.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, ministers. All right, my question is as it relates to the feasibility of a suggestion I'd like to make. As it relates to the government wanting to bring down interest rates, we've seen the BOJ CD rate come down, and of course with the liquidity coming in the market.
1 second for me. Could I just ask everyone who is having a separate conversation, perhaps at the back or to the side, will be finished in about 10-15 minutes. So just give us a little room for hearing the other persons, and I can call some of your names because I see you.
I'm sorry, maybe I need to speak up. All right, as it relates to the government's mandate in bringing down interest rates, we've seen that with the BOJ CD rate cut, and we're expecting a lot of liquidity in the market in 2016. But the spin-off effect from that is that we're going to have pressure on the dollar. Now, as it relates to the feasibility of my suggestion, what I'm looking at is the quasi-institutions are what I would like to say cash-rich. And they do have a dominant role in terms of interest rates in the market. What I would ask is that similar to the type of relationship that we have with the financial institutions in terms of how it is that they manage the FX rate, in terms of like a gentleman's agreement, could we have the same type of agreement with the quasi-institutions in terms of their max amount in terms of the interest rate that they're willing to accept on their deposits, in order to be in line with the same government mandate? Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, everyone. Ministers. My question is based on entrepreneurs who don't like loans. Those entrepreneurs who can't get loans. Yes, I would like to find out what are the systems in place for entrepreneurs who want capital in the form of grants and sponsorships. Can the government establish an association of investors or successful businesses that will invest or finance young entrepreneurs like writers, poets, artists, designers. Oh, by the way, yes, right, social and creative entrepreneurs. My name is Erica Heslop Martin. I am a poet, a writer. I published this book, The Power of Words. Get it? It's in the bookstores at Bookophilia, Brian's Bookstore, Kingston Bookshop, UCC Book Center,
All right.
Andrews Hospital Pharmacy. All right? Thank you.
Yes. Go ahead.
Good evening, evening, ministers. My name is Nestor Andrews. I'm just wondering, though, on the question of growth, because I'm thinking that is question of growth and development. Is it possible as a solution, though, that we look at areas in Jamaica, like different parishes or regions, as centers of excellence for producing certain products? And we could go back to that, because I'm looking like in the example of the US, you have certain states that are known for like either their natural resources or producing certain products from that region. Instead of everybody kind of coming into the urban areas to say, yes, I'm going to Kingston to study, I'm going to Kingston to look at a job, could we look at creating centers of excellence for production?
Thank you. Ms. Rapole.
Repole Wilson now. So I'm Anika Repole Wilson. I represent islandmom.org. And a lot of our members are from Jamaica, within the Caribbean, and throughout the diaspora. My question for you, Dr. Phillips, is for those who are in the diaspora, our concerns are less about us and more about our children, in terms of what incentives those kids can have to come back to Jamaica to study, to work, to build. Minister Hanna, my question for you is two-part. One is in relation to the adoption procedures. There's a lot of red tape, and it's making it very difficult for parents or potential parents to actually adopt children and give them deserving homes, and what can be done to alleviate those issues. Secondly, the sex offenders registry. Where are we with that? And in some regard, are we also looking at offender registries abroad when we are bringing people or allowing immigrants to live and work in our country?
Thank you.
Oh, and I would love to take a selfie with you guys, and we take like the backdrop, get like a nice backdrop selfie. So I'll wait.
Okay. Thanks, Anika. Yes, Jamaica Reach.
Good night. I'm Antonio Wynn from the Mitigation and Adaptation to Climate Change Group, and I'm also a senior volunteer at the Portmore YIC. All right. My question was initially answered by the Yalas youngster. He stated my question already. Well, the thing is, I really like this platform. I like to see the ministers, the politicians have this platform for the youths. But the thing is, the youths don't get basically a chance to have a say in the initial development execution process after this. So I like to give you guys two homeworks. One for the Mr. Pickersgill, right? Phillips, sorry,
Phillips.
I'm
Phillips.
sorry, Phillips. Mr. Phillips.
Is
yeah.
that Peting? Don't worry, we forgive you.
Please let Jamaica move from IMF. That's your homework. And for you, Miss Lisa Anna, give the youth more say in the decision process and the implementation process. All right.
Thank you. Yes, final question.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, ministers. My name is Anna K. Kelly, and I'm a student of the Norman Manley Law School. Now, Minister, the picture that you have painted us today is an extremely dire picture. It's basically what you want us to do is to burn our bellies and continue to sacrifice and work in a system that you yourself admit is oppressive. And as reasonable Jamaicans, I believe we are willing to do that in order to improve the climate, the economic climate of this country right now. But the thing is, there needs to be an end in sight. What I would like you to leave with us, Minister, is an honest estimation as to when the average Jamaican citizen will feel the difference from all the measures that you have put in place. And I mean the practical difference, the difference when they're shopping at the wholesales, when they're shopping, when they reach a cash register at the supermarket, because as a struggling ghetto youth right now, to be honest with you, I have to suppress the urge to cry every time I'm at the cash register in the supermarket. So we are willing, and I will take the liberty to speak for many, if not all of us, when we say that we're willing to continue to burn our bellies, continue to work and strive in this economic climate, but we need some form of end in sight. So if it's 2 years, if it's 5 years, if it's 10 years, no, it's not gonna be 5 months. We have to be reasonable. We have to be reasonable, okay? So if it's whatever, if you can just give us a honest estimation as to when we will see the difference, then I believe that we are willing to work.
Powerful.
I will, is the last question, and I will make it my last answer. The first question raised was about the disabled community, and I believe that there are some programs administered by the Ministry of Labor and Social Security for the disabled community. And indeed, if there are NGOs in that involved and there is an active NGO community, this is an area where some specific resources, I think, could be facilitated to deal with that. And I neglected to make the point and really agree with the suggestion that had been made by the lady speaking on behalf of the hearing impaired in the previous set of questions. There was a question about people who don't want to borrow. No, I mean, you might not want to borrow, but there are venture capital funds that will be formalized in the, as I said, before the end of this year. There are a couple of angel investor networks that that exist, although your particular interest is in publishing poetry, and I don't know that that is what I would call an investment activity. Although publishing, it is an investment of sorts and a very valuable undertaking. We need, in fact, I think our cultural contributors, practitioners, are perhaps the most important element of our current needs. But the Development Bank of Jamaica can point you to the angel investor networks. Of course, angel investors decide who they want to support and who they don't. Angel investors are people who look for what are good ideas and viable investment propositions and invest alongside it with their own plan how to get their takeout in due time. The question of centers of excellence. I think there are certainly centers that emerge. I mean, you know, you have a major BPO operation in Montego Bay. The medical tourism will emerge in that area. And it's not for the state, in a sense, to pick where these particular economies of scale will emerge. Silicon Valley wasn't a decision of the government of the United States, either federal or state. It emerged around the particular university network in Northern California. Likewise, I think we will see the emergence around particular areas of our own country of different enterprises. There's a whole ICT software development set of companies developing linked to UWI. We see developments in the Mandeville area. One important thing for us, because we're a small country, is that as we improve the infrastructure and the linkages, the travel time diminishes between our main urban centers, then we'll find a lot more interaction and linkage developed between these various communities. Yes.
Just to build on a point of what the minister is saying in terms of culture and also in terms of what the young gentleman was asking in Brand Jamaica. The ability now for persons in Montego Bay and soon to be Ocho Rios to be able to come to Kingston in less than an hour will actually open up Kingston, and that is what we're doing as a creative city and as a new tourism destination. So we now have a World Heritage Site. We're doing tours of Kingston. You're going to see we're spending millions of dollars to upgrade Port Royal. So what you're going to see over the next couple of months, we've started already, is a boom in terms of Kingston. We're opening museums. The Simon Bolivar Center is opening next month. We're breaking ground for the Natural History Museum. So there's a lot of things happening in culture as well. So for those of you who are interested in culture, you're going to find yourself being swept up in a momentum over the next 6 months into 2 years. And I know that we'll probably be giving you more information coming out of tourism and what we're doing in terms of Kingston. And you'll see and hear more about it. Minister.
The question was raised in relation to the diaspora. What incentives to come back to study, to work, and build? I think I'd make 2 points. One, that the universities, plural, are increasingly offering courses during the summer to people from overseas, so that at least the members of the Caribbean community overseas, the Jamaican community, second generation, can get some opportunity to experience and study Jamaican culture and history and the like. So I think that that's an important point. In addition, I think there is scope for entrepreneurship to organize some tours, study tours, culture tours. JUTC has, for example, just put in place a culture tour, which I would encourage even locals to take. But again, I think it would be a very useful thing to organize with the diaspora and if I had time, I might do it myself. A tour, a cultural, historical tour. Lots of American universities are doing it to come down here. Rather than them making the push, I think we should probably do the pull part by organizing some of these tours in collaboration with them and earning hard currency out of it as well. Now, the lady from Norman Manley School asking with much passion and understandable emotion, when will we be at the end point? I think, to be honest, it's a work in progress. And as I said, the ultimate objective of reducing the debt and the timetable for that debt reduction is set out. So 10 years' time, we will come to a manageable debt. But that doesn't mean that the degree, hold on, that doesn't mean that the degree of sacrifice remains the same throughout that 10 years. There was a wage freeze with the public sector workers for the first 2 years. What was on offer and what they signed to last week and today the teachers signed was for a wage increase, but it is not an unlimited wage increase. So that was 7% over the 2 years plus the allowances, but that represents more than was on offer during the wage freeze. So that's, and as the conditions improve, I would expect the next contract period to have greater opportunities. But there are also other gains, even within this period. Is it a gain that the Ministry of Education has been able and will this year take 24 schools off the shift system and allow children in those schools to get more hours of education and extracurricular activities? I believe it is a gain, and an important gain, even in the middle of the sacrifices that are being made. Is it a gain that we have 3% lower unemployment in the period for those who have gone on to the labor force, 30,000 Jamaicans? It represents a gain. Are they wealthy and rich? No, but they are better off than when they were not working. And that is an important gain. We hope steadily to build our growth rates and our incomes in the course of the next 2, 3, 4 years. We estimate a pace of growth that moves from 2%, 2.5%, 3% to sustain. And ultimately, we would expect, depending on the rate of growth, not only to have a faster than programmed reduction in the debt, which is possible the faster you grow, but to reduce our unemployment numbers to single digits, to contain inflation, and to grow incomes in the course of the next 5 years, and to move forward beyond. The ultimate objective, don't forget, is to create the conditions for Jamaica to move up the income scale. And there is Vision 2030 to have us as a country that is the place of choice to work and to live and to secure all the benefits of modern life.
Thank you. Let me just answer. You can clap, the Minister. Let me answer the question from Mrs. Ripple Wilson I won't tell you, she used to sit on my lap as a little girl, and I used to teach her karate. So it's great to see her blossom and bloom. We've actually fixed a number of things in the adoption program. The part that is the hardest for us is when persons ask for a particular child. So they want a young baby that is 0 to 6 months, or they want a boy or a girl. Other kinds of adoptions are easier. So if you have an aunt who wants to adopt a relative, that's easy. If you have someone from the States who wants to do that, that's also easy. And so we've cleared the backlog in the adoption system. The one that is difficult, Anika, is the one I just said, where a parent is waiting for a particular, or someone is waiting for a particular child. The sexual registry is up. It's there. The legislation is there. And I will pass on your point to the Minister of Justice relating to the cross relationships between the sexual registries overseas. I believe that there is a mechanism now, because we have implemented, as the Ministry of Youth, integrated information system which manages all of the ministries that deal with children and child abuse once you come into state care. So Justice, Sissoko, ourselves, National Security share information. So I will check on that for you. We've come to the end of what I believe has been a good evening. And I know that you probably have more questions and you have more answers. But let me say this to you. I had a dream, and I still have a dream, of making Jamaica a first world country. Now, dreams don't happen by accident, and all of you have dreams. I decided to go into politics because I wanted to make a difference. I'm fortunate to be a part of a government which is really working on taking some serious decisions and tough decisions that have started to pay off. And we're asking you to follow us to be on that same course about moving forward to make sure that we can all have the dream that we have. I know it's not easy. I know as politicians you cuss us every day. You're cynical. You're looking at us and saying, look, I can't understand it. But at the end of the day, listen, we all want you to live and die in this country, making it a part of the best country in the world. That's why we sacrifice. That's why we do and stay up until all hours of the night and work 7 days a week. So we want to thank you for listening, and we want to thank you for being a part of this journey. And if there are any questions, we're going to be here moving forward with you. So thank you all for coming out. There are refreshments at the back, and we look forward to even having some other conversations, but to get you out of here at a reasonable hour, so that those of you who live with your parents can go home at a respectable time. Thank you.
Sir Samuel, what's going on?